All right, welcome to the SnydeReport. I am your host, Gary Snyder. Joining me today, you probably don't know him, at least if you're here in Indiana. I bet if you're in Iowa or a baseball fan, you are. J.D. Scholten. Did I get that right?
Yes, sir.
How about that? I'm 1 for 1 so far.
I like it.
I had Beto O'Rourke on the other day. Try to say that name real fast a couple times.
I'm doing an event with Beto tomorrow night, so
Okay.
I'm glad he was able to come on.
Yeah, he's a great guy, does a lot for Texas, and that's going to be a heck of a U.S. Senate race in Texas. But
Yeah.
we're here to talk about the U.S. Senate race in Iowa.
Yeah.
You are a state representative
Correct.
by day and a professional baseball player at night.
Yep.
So what made you decide to go from baseball player to state representative to U.S. Senate?
So it kind of worked in reverse. So I used to play baseball a long time ago, and I ran for Congress in 2018 and 2020 in Northwest Iowa, very conservative district, and outperformed the top of the ticket. Almost won in 2018 in a district Trump won by 27. We lost by 3 points. But after my congressional campaigns, I wanted to get back to hanging out with my parents a little bit more, and they live up in Minnesota, and Minnesota has amazing town team baseball. And so I just started playing with my old team that I played a long time ago, and that we have a professional team here in Sioux City. We're in the league with a team from Indiana and Gary, the Gary South Shore Railcats.
Yep.
We were there just last week, and with the Sioux City Explorers, I told them, hey, if you ever need a pitcher, just let me know. And on July 6th last year, I got a bunch of phone calls and texts because I didn't have my phone on me, and I saw, and they were desperate for a pitcher, and basically they gave up 34 runs the 2 nights previously. Oh, no. And their starting pitcher had a neck injury. So desperate is the key term there. And so even at 44 years old, I went in there and went 6 2/3, only gave up 2 runs and got the win. So, and stayed with the team last year and still am this year.
That bar was set pretty high for 34 runs, and
right.
So, we have something in common then, because I ran for Congress in 2022.
Oh, nice.
In a very conservative district here in Indiana, and I lost by 31 points.
Oh, there you
Not
go.
3. So.
Tell you what,
I lost to our now U.S. Senator Jim Banks, who is just a horrible person. So
well, here's the thing: is we need to invest more in different races, and I know like money doesn't grow on trees and all that stuff, but like I just think there is a missed opportunity of Democrats to like, what can we do to shrink margins? And if we just don't play in races or things like that, like that's what I see here in Iowa. And that's why we try to get people to run in every state house seat and try to put a little bit of money behind them, because if you don't play in these areas, it's not going to help the overall statewide races. And so I thank you for running for what you did. I understand the feeling. Like, we were not a darling by any means until after the race. And so I feel you.
Well, your perseverance paid off. You're a state rep now.
Yeah. So it was a Democratic seat for a long time. 12 years my friend had it before me, and he said, hey, I'm going to retire. You should run for this seat. And I was like, I'm good. Like I ran for Congress twice. I'm exhausted. Ran uphill both times. And then in 2022, I ran unopposed, which I highly encourage. If you're going to run for office, try to run unopposed. That's the best.
That's always nice, isn't it?
But then this last time I did have an opponent, and Trump won my district, but we still outperformed the top of the ticket like I've done in every single race. And yeah, so still in the state house. It's an honor to represent Sioux City, both on the baseball field and at the Iowa Capitol.
So what made you decide to take the leap from state representative to U.S. Senate?
A lot of the huge things that I'm extremely passionate about are federal issues. Universal health care is one. The farm bill and the agricultural economy, what we can do with that. Those are near and dear to my heart. I got into politics because after the 2016 election, I looked at myself in the mirror and was like, what can I do to fight for the things I believe in? And the biggest thing that happened to me was my grandmother on her deathbed pretty much told me, you got to take care of the farm. And I grew up, I'm first generation to grow in town, but come from a long line of farmers. And just, it's one of those things that a lot of Iowa families are considering about the same issues that I am. And so that's a huge issue. That's a huge part of why I decided to do this at the Senate, for the U.S. Senate and at the federal level.
How important are farming issues to you? Because Indiana is a lot like Nebraska. You know, people say there's more than corn in Indiana. I say bullshit. But I guess we have a racetrack.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing: is I went to Farm Aid a couple years ago, in when it was just outside of Indianapolis, and a lot of the local folks I was talking with there, Indiana is similar to Iowa, where 90% of the food we consume is imported. And so during COVID, I think that really put a spotlight on things where you got farmers being squeezed. You have workers working in these processing plants in dangerous situations for low wages. You have consumers paying the most they ever have for things. And then you have these huge multinational corporations that are making record profits or near record profits. And so that's the reality of places, especially the rural communities in Indiana and Iowa. And so that's why I'm very much in the anti-monopoly movement. You know, when I was running in 2018, I was one of the few candidates that consistently talked about the Packers and Stockyards Act of 1921. Not the most exciting thing. Yeah, I was the one. And so, like, to me, we rolled out our agriculture policy this week. And to me, it should be the guiding light to what Democrats should be fighting for, especially in rural communities. Because I've talked to farmers who will always vote for me and ones who will never vote for me and everywhere in between, and not one of them push back when I talk about anti-monopoly issues.
How do you talk to rural farmers, rural folk out in Iowa? Because for better or worse, and it's happened here in Indiana, is that a lot of time Democrats are kind of lumped in with your New York Democrats or
right. And that's
your California Democrats. And when I had Governor Beshear on about a month ago, and he said, we need to learn to start being able to talk, real talk to people instead of relying on East and West Coast Democrats to, I guess, lead the narrative for us.
Exactly. You know, part of the huge problem is so much of our campaigns are run by consultants who are not from the Midwest or understand the territory. I got my issues not because of hiring some fancy consultant or did polls or anything like that. I did hundreds of town halls in my district. And these were the same issues that come up time and time again. And so I talk every single day about fight, fix, and secure. Fight for universal health care. Fix the economy so it works for everybody, not just the billionaires or the huge corporations. And then the third is secure our democracy from the special interests and the billionaires that are dictating things right now. So going back to my 2018 campaign, I was talking to farmers who were dealing with 5 consecutive years of low commodity prices. And the number one thing by far that they brought up, the first thing was health insurance, because they don't have employer health insurance. And that's why I feel like folks who are working second or third jobs or off the farm jobs just to have health insurance, it's a game changer if we could do something like that here in Iowa. It would allow so much more freedom for folks to innovate and switch jobs or do what you need to do. Just the problem is people are so reliant on a job they're stuck in just so they have health insurance. And that isn't an area where we're just, a lot of people are stuck. And, you know, every single community, and I'm sure it's similar in Indiana, there's a GoFundMe or a pancake breakfast or a donation box to help pay for somebody's medical costs. And yet at this time, we are the wealthiest nation in the world. We seem to have endless money when it goes to foreign wars, and yet we can't take care of ourselves.
And the wealthy seem to be getting wealthier, and
right.
The middle class seem to be getting poor.
Well, and in going back to sports, Venus Williams, I believe she played a tennis tournament just because she needed more health insurance.
Yeah, she lost her health insurance. And she won at least the first round. So that was amazing. Hey, JD, can you hold through a quick break?
Yep, absolutely.
You're listening to the SnydeReport with Gary Snyder. All right, this is the part of the SnydeReport where we thank our sponsors, and we have a growing list. So let's start with Robin Winston. Robin has been there when we first sent out our first email, 147 subscribers. We're now over 108,000. So thank you, Robin Winston, and helping us get the podcast going in the right direction. Next up is our good friend, former Congresswoman Jill Long Thompson. Her book, Across the Aisle, Why Bipartisanship Works for America. Get that anywhere you buy your books. Also, former two-term governor, two-term U.S. Senator Evan Bayh. Evan has been a sponsor of the newsletter, now jumps on board with the podcast. Congressman Andre Carson. Congressman Carson has been there from the start. We're glad to have him over here on the newsletter now. He needs your help to win re-election next year. So make sure you support Congressman Carson. Next up, State Representative Cherish Pryor. Cherish has been there from the start on the newsletter, joining us on the podcast now. So is State Senator Greg Taylor. I want to thank Senator Taylor for all of his support through the years. Next, we have a couple of new sponsors. First up is Indiana Citizen. You want to check out their new project, One Heartbeat Away. Do Christian nationalists have an agenda for Indiana? You know, all you have to do is look at the lieutenant governorship and you can see right away that they do. So thank you, Indiana Citizen. Next up is Jump Laundry. You can visit them at jumplaundry.com. They have home pickup. They do your dry cleaning, wash and fold with, I might add, no judgments, and next day service. So if you're in a crunch for time, you don't want to do your own laundry, get a hold of Jump Laundry at jumplaundry.com or at 317-740-5011. And they will take care of all of your laundry needs. Welcome back to the SnydeReport. I'm your host, Gary Snyder. We are speaking today with U.S. Senate candidate in Iowa, J.D. Scholten. J.D., if you win, do you have a primary? I mean, do you have a primary opponent?
Yep. There's a couple other people running by a political scientist at Iowa State, went on Iowa Public Radio, said we're the front runner. National folks, there's a thing called split ticket modeling that shows if we're the nominee, we have a chance for an upset. If it's anybody else, it's a it's a safe Republican seat. So the ratings changed from it being a safe seat to a lean Republican after we jumped in the race. And that was after Joni Ernst had her town hall where she said, we're all going to die. And I responded, we don't have to die so billionaires can have a bigger tax break.
And we don't have to die so soon.
Right, exactly.
Well, so you would be running against Joni Ernst. She has come out and said that, you know, she's not sure if she's going to run for re-election.
And we don't know if it's her. That's right.
I'm going to guess she is.
They're pushing for it. So it seems like that's the play out of Washington is they're trying to convince incumbents to run for re-election.
You know, looking at Joni Ernst, she seemed to be, at least at one point, kind of in your typical conservative Republican, and she's kind of morphed into this MAGA extremist. And again, I'm looking from, you know, a couple states away to the point, and it just seems like this last Trump win broke her. Something snapped, and if you watch her now, she's basically a bad day away from showing nudes and being Nancy Mace on the Senate floor.
The reality is, like, she's done decent things in the past. Like what she's done with sexual assault victims is something that, you know, you tip your hat and say, good
until
work.
Pete Hegseth. I mean, that's what I think broke her.
Right. You have the Pete Hegseth thing, and now she's not said a word on the Epstein file stuff. And so you're just kind of scratching your head and saying, like, where have you gone? And you know, you see this in folks who go to Washington and then kind of get caught up in things out there and are more worried about things out there than their own constituents. And so the lack of, I mean, she did a town hall that went very viral, and I don't know if she's done one since.
Well, I'm guessing she hasn't and she won't.
Yeah, right.
What's your main criticism of her?
I mean, she's gone DC. You know, when she first got elected, it was one of those things where she said she was going to drain the swamp type mentality. And I mean, you just look at what she's been able to do, and she continues to give huge bailouts to billionaires and leave working class people behind. You know, Representative Bacon in Nebraska, who's retiring, and it seems like all these Republicans, when they retire, tend to have the truth serum come out. And he said Iowa and Nebraska are in an agriculture recession, or are in a recession economically, especially in the agriculture industries. And where's she at with this? Like she's like, we kicked the farm bill down the road. We have these get big or get off the farm policies, and most Iowans, the status quo is not working, and she's more worried about issues that don't really impact us and try to divide us than these things that everybody here in Iowa needs.
The big bad ugly bill that passed, she voted for it. Basically, how many Iowans are going to be kicked off of Medicaid or lose their SNAP benefits? And you can go
Exactly.
down the line.
And we're talking about hundreds of thousands of Iowans.
And how many hospitals are going to, because in Indiana, we're looking at 13 to 20 rural hospitals are going to close. I got to imagine that's got to be close to something to like that in Iowa.
Absolutely. Like it's rural nursing homes, it's rural OBGYN units. Just the way of life, the Iowa way of life is just getting harder and harder. And I mean, even with Medicaid, they're struggling right now. Hospitals are struggling to stay afloat. And so you have this drastic cuts to it, and it's just going to be devastating. And then that adds more stress onto the urban healthcare centers as well. And so this is going to impact all Iowans, not just the people who are on Medicaid. All Iowans are going to be impacted by this.
When we take a look at tariffs, Iowa, I assume, like Indiana, probably exports a lot of their crops. And with retaliatory tariffs that a lot of countries are putting on, including Canada, and Canada is one of Indiana's largest trading partners.
Yeah.
I imagine it's probably similar to Iowa.
Yep.
How does that affect the farmer out there?
I mean, even before the tariffs have come into place, the Iowa agriculture economy is in a recession. You look at the first Trump administration, and though that trade war, we've lost our soybean market. Brazil is growing rapidly, and Iowa spent decades trying to get into the Chinese market with soybeans. And just with what Trump has done, we've become an unreliable supplier. So China looked down to Brazil, and now is getting Brazilian soybeans. And the issue is the same multinational corporations who are up here selling Iowa soybeans to China are down there selling Brazilian soybeans. So they're not loyal to us either. So that's a struggle. And you have Trump coming to Iowa, and every time he comes here, he's like, oh, farmers love me. And I want to push back. I'm like, which ones? The ones that had their contracts cut by Doge? Is it the row crop farmers who had their fertilizer prices jacked up 200%? Recently because of the tariffs? Is it the soybean farmers, like I mentioned, that lost a huge chunk of their market to Brazil? Or is it the cattle farmers and ranchers who are struggling because this administration has allowed JBS, one of the most corrupt multinational corporations out there from Brazil, to be publicly traded, and is going to hurt a lot of the last remaining independent cattle farmers?
All right, I'm going to ask you a question that may get you in a little bit of trouble in Iowa. Iowa State or Iowa?
This is my most political
answer. You a Hawkeye or is it a Cyclone?
Yep, Cyclone. So this is my most political question because my dad actually graduated from Nebraska. I played college baseball there.
Dude, you just lost every friggin' vote in Iowa right now.
I played in the 2002 College World Series. My dad was the assistant baseball coach at Iowa State when I was born, but now the only program that has baseball in Iowa, UNI dropped it, Iowa State dropped it, is University of Iowa. So I tend to lean to the colleges that have baseball programs.
So, I mean, do you still support Nebraska in any way? Because I have to admit, that's probably pretty close to being sacrilegious there.
I am a Husker baseball fan. I am not a Husker football fan by any means.
What's the season look like? Because I'm a Notre Dame fan.
Oh, nice.
But what's the season look like for Iowa out there? We're Big Ten country here,
Yeah.
with the Boilermakers
Yeah.
and the Hoosiers. So,
So we're just outside of being ranked preseason. We got a new Iowa got a new quarterback from South Dakota State, and so a lot of fans are excited about that. I think Iowa State's going to have a decent program too. Like Coach Ferentz and Coach Campbell, I think are two outstanding coaches, and I think the state of Iowa is lucky to have both of them.
what do you think of the new rules with the NIL and whole teams almost at times switching alliances?
Yeah, the NCAA has let it get out of control, and that's very frustrating. You know, I talked to some of my teammates who have dealt with it because I have a couple guys who are straight from college.
Mm-hmm.
We have to make sure, like, I'm for players getting paid that's totally fine. But at the same time, this transfer portal and going to 4 colleges in 4 years, I think loses some of what college is all about. And so I think they need to figure that out really quick.
Real quick, make your pitch. Why should you be Iowa's next U.S. Senator?
Ooh, well, you know, at the end of the
Besides
day,
Joni Ernst being batshit crazy.
well, I just like to talk about where I come from. And for me, I'm a baseball playing, Monopoly busting, beer drinking, Bible reading, working class, proud prairie populist who's a 6th generation Iowan. And, you know, I think so much of my previous campaigns and my campaign now is going to be getting out to all 99 counties. We had a former Winnebago RV because they were made in state here for my congressional campaigns that we named Sioux City Sioux. We're hoping to get another one here shortly and go to all 99 counties and just really get a campaign that gets out there to the people.
I ask you this off air, so I'll ask you on air too. What's your go-to pitch? You're up against the Gary whatever.
You South Shore Railcats?
Yeah, and you need that one pitch to get someone out.
Yeah, so it's my 2-seamer. Even though I don't throw as hard as I used to, I still break bats. So it's good late life, and it's my moneymaker.
JD Scholten, thank you. Oh wait, no, I see. I'm a little premature here. Where can people find out more about your campaign, donate, all that good stuff? God, that would have been horrible.
Oh, you're good. You're good. ScholtenForIowa.com. That's SCHOLTENFORIOWA.com.
And with you know what's happening with redistricting, what happens in Iowa could very well affect the rest of us across the nation. So
absolutely, we have 2 House seats that are considered very flippable, and then the Senate race is getting more and more up for grabs. And I'm liking where we're at right now.
JD Scholten, thank you very much.
Thank you so much for having me.
I'm Gary Snyder. He is not. He is JD Scholten. This is the SnydeReport, and we are out. All right, this is the part of the SnydeReport where we thank our sponsors, and we have a growing list. So let's start with Robin Winston. Robin has been there when we first sent out our first email, 147 subscribers. We're now over 108,000. So thank you, Robin Winston, and helping us get the podcast going in the right direction. Next up is our good friend, former Congresswoman Jill Long Thompson. Her book, Across the Aisle, Why Bipartisanship Works for America. Get that anywhere you buy your books. Also, former 2-term governor, 2-term U.S. Senator Evan Bayh. Evan has been a sponsor of the newsletter, now jumps on board with the podcast. Congressman Andre Carson. Congressman Carson has been there from the start. We're glad to have him over here on the newsletter now. He needs your help to win re-election next year. So make sure you support Congressman Carson. Next up, State Representative Cherish Pryor. Cherish has been there from the start on the newsletter, joining us on the podcast now. So is State Senator Greg Taylor. I want to thank Senator Taylor for all of his support through the years. Next, we have a couple of new sponsors. First up is Indiana Citizen. You want to check out their new project, One Heartbeat Away. Do Christian nationalists have an agenda for Indiana? You know, all you have to do is look at the lieutenant governorship and you can see right away that they do. So thank you, Indiana citizen. Next up is Jump Laundry. You can visit them at jumplaundry.com. They have home pickup. They do your dry cleaning, wash and fold with, I might add, no judgments, and next day service. So if you're in a crunch for time, you don't want to do your own laundry, get a hold of Jump Laundry at jumplaundry.com or at 317-740-5011, and they will take care of all of your laundry needs.